going on, everybody? How you all doing? Hopefully you're all doing well, man. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, and I think that we're going to do a little bit of a different style. We're doing a little bit of a different style tonight, but I kind of would like to come up with a show type of an idea and just play around with this where we get to talk about not just one of the teams, but also like talk about each and every team that's out there and make like an hour show out of it. I think that it would be really cool, but we're just going to, try new things because that's what our podcast is all about. So, we do the play-by-plays and stuff, which is really, really cool, but I'm also willing to try different things on here too. So, and that's all I got to say about that. So if you are new, make sure you like and subscribe and turn on those notification bell icons. And that way you'll know when I go live or if I upload. All right. Usually we just go live on here, but sometimes you never know. That's why you got to keep those notification bell icons on. All right. So, yes, we're going to talk about all four Philly teams. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to get off my chest about each and every one of them. All right. And I think that it's appropriate for us to start off with the Phillies, all right? So, I am heartbroken. The Phillies broke me, okay? I'm not feeling good about the Phils. I thought that when I watched the Sixers collapse against the Atlanta Hawks 3 years ago, I personally thought that was like one of the worst things I went through as a sports fan. I got to tell you, what the Phillies did to me, it stung harder. It did not feel good. I was really embarrassed. The Phillies the bats went cold for no reason. And I'm at the point now where I'm still in the heat of it with them. I haven't forgiven them for what they did. It's going to take me a while for me to get over this, okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I really feel like that this team broke me. Seriously. After game 4 of the NLCS, I couldn't recover from that. I felt very lost as a Phillies fan because it didn't have to be a bullpen game. And Rob Thompson made it that way. And Rob doesn't deserve all the blame in the world. We'll talk a little bit about Rob in just a little bit. But I'm looking at the players like Trey Turner. I'm looking at players like Nick Castellanos. Okay? I'm looking at these guys that were carrying you throughout pretty much September until that second game of the NLCS. And I am still shocked to this day that they did not get the job done. That was literally in their hands, and they folded. Just because they beat the Atlanta Braves doesn't mean that I have to be satisfied with how the ending went. Because I don't feel good, and I'll never forget the whole experience. I mean, calling the games on here was a lot of fun, and like that's what we do, but the fan in me just did not feel good at all whatsoever. After Game 4, I thought to myself, well, the Arizona Diamondbacks are literally back in this series. And shame on Garrett Stubbs, by the way, because the comments that he made, I'm sorry, but like, I understand that you're a backup catcher, but how do you not know when you got to draw the line and keep the mouth shut? Because you saw what Orlando Arcia did, and you saw the reports that came out about Arcia, about Bryce Harper, and what he had to say to him, and Harper used that as fire. The Diamondbacks, man, you have to back up what you say, and you, as a competitor, have to be very cognitive of what you're doing. And Stubbs, it's not all his fault. But I'm not happy with what he did. I'm not happy with what he said. And I thought that maybe that sparked a little bit of a fire in the Diamondbacks. But they failed the ultimate goal. And I felt like that this team collapsed. And again, I bring up the Sixers in this sense because when the Sixers collapsed, when you look back at Ben Simmons and everything, they were still the better team. But this was just like they were more like they were even better than their competitor. And that's what makes this thing such a gut punch. And this doesn't make me feel good. See, Seth even agrees with me. I want to get to each and every one of your comments, okay? If you guys want to come on here and talk about the Phillies right now, we're going to go to the phones in just a second. But if you want to come on to just talk Phillies with me right now, we can do that because now's the time for us to express our frustration with this team because they failed at the end of the day. I personally thought that Rob Thompson should have substituted out Yohan Rojas in that situation in Game 7 with the bases loaded, okay? And I cannot forgive him for that because that was just a stupid move. To keep him in there, at that point, you either go with Pache, you go with somebody else. You have to be willing to adjust. And he didn't do it in that situation, and that was a failure type of a move. It really was. It shot themselves in the foot, and those are the loser plays. You can't be making those mistakes. When you go to Orion Kerkering the one time, that's fine. You want to see what he's made of, but the fact that you keep going to him in the 7th and then the 8th inning, and you keep going to Craig Kimbrell when he's struggling, again, yes, it's on the players, but at the same time, Rob's making those decisions. Did he pull Zach Wheeler a little bit too soon some of the time? I don't think so. But if you screw up and you're not able to get another out, right? If you leave Wheeler in there even a batter too long, that can cost you a game. And not only can it cost you a game, but it can actually cost you a series. So, those are my thoughts on that. I want them to run this back, though. Okay, I do. I was talking to Larry last night, and I literally said to him, I want them to run this back because this is a championship type of a team. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Nola, and we have a lot of things to figure out in this offseason with who's going to resign, who's going to come back, which other arms are they going to get. But I really would like them to run this back because they have a championship type of a team, and they don't just grow on trees. You have the caliber of a team that should make it and win the World Series. No doubt about it. They can compete with the Braves. They can compete with anybody in the league. And I don't want to blow it up. It's just a shame that they did that to us. And we have every right to be frustrated. All right? If you want to come on and talk to Phils right now, all right, please come on and join the Discord server. I do want to get to Seth's comments really quickly. Seth says, I think we need new pitchers. I think that we could use more bullpen pieces for sure. I don't know what they're going to do with Aaron Nola. That's the big question that I have as far as the starting rotation goes. But I think that the pitching was fine. I personally believe that the number one reason why you lost was because the bats did not show up. Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler were luxuries. Yes, you needed them to produce the way that they did, but this team, their identity is about power. Hitting home runs. They led the league in solo homers, and that's just how they feed off of each other. They crush baseballs. That's why we love this team. It's not because of their pitching. So, while yes, I would like us to get another arm, I think that we have some good guys in the organization that I would love to bring up and see who we have next year, and I think that that's going to be fine. And I do think that some of our system guys, now that we actually have a minor league system, are going to produce. But that's not the number one concern I have. Even though I don't know what's going to happen to Nola. All right, we're going to invite Larry to come on here. All right, Larry, let's bring you on, man. And again, if you guys want to come on and talk about the Phillies right now, all right, we're talking about the Phils. Larry, what's going on? You're on the State of Philly Sports Pod with JJ talking about the Phillies.
Hey JJ, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, and you're coming in clear too as well.
Good, good. All right, I'm the voice of the old Phillies vanguard here to let you know that this probably isn't your first round of Phillies PTSD, but this is the most severe one in a long time, and I've been through it before in the 70s, in 1993, 2009, 10, 11. This team has done this to me before, and I'm here to tell you, you never get completely over it, but
Yep,
things will get a little better with time. Like
I
anything,
think
time
so.
heals all wounds. It doesn't heal it completely, but it'll leave a nice scar.
Yep,
But things will get better, but it's still really raw for me too. We after game two of the Diamondback series, we talked on the phone for a long time, and it was
yep,
every button Rob was pushing was working. Everything they had ups and downs during the season. The offense was inconsistent, starting pitching, some inconsistency, the bullpen, everything had its issues here and there, and it all came together. In August and September, everything worked. Everything was firing on all cylinders. And I said the same thing you did. They made me believe. By the end
yep.
of September, I was completely, and I'm a skeptic, and
Yes, you
I'm
are.
kind of guarded because I don't
Yep.
want to completely buy in because they burned me before, and I
Right.
did. I was like, there's no way this is going to fall apart. Everything was just hitting on all cylinders, and for in the span of 4 or 5 games for one aspect, the most important aspect, the offense, to just completely go belly up was totally unexpected and just like right there at the finish line, just a gut punch. And it was tough to take, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to completely buy in next year. I'll be on board, I'll be rooting for them, but they're going to have to do a lot to win me over again. It, it's just kind of angry about it. I hold it against
Absolutely.
them. I said to you, um, you'll never. They made me buy in. They made me believe, and for that, I can't forgive them. Maybe someday I'll be able to, but not for a long time. And
Larry,
that's how it's going to be for a long time, unless they win the World Series next year, and then it's all forgotten and it's water under the bridge. But yeah, it may be a long time. You never know with these things that they could never get over the hump and have to with this team and have to tear it down and start all over again. And it might be, you know, 10 or 15 years in the wilderness, like between 83 and 93 and between 2011 and 2022, where they're just, and also ran all year and they're just trying to put things together with young guys. And it takes a long time to do that. It's a long, slow process. And I don't want to have to sit through that. They got a championship window still open
they do.
and they have to go for it. I think you're right. I think they have to run it back for the most part. You're going to make tweaks here and there. There's decisions to be made on Nola and Hoskins, but for the most part, it's going to be the same team essentially, and they're going to have to just keep hammering at that championship window. And it seemed inevitable at that point last year after Game 2 of the NLCS, and now it looks like who knows? This team may not win a championship, and it's really going to be sad if they don't. But it's going to be their own fault.
And Larry, I appreciate you so much for coming on here. If you want to talk, about the other teams too, like I'll definitely get you back on. I just want to harp on a point that you made that this team is a championship level type of a team with what they have. Okay, they failed. Okay, there's no doubt about it that they failed, and they did not get the job done. Um, they do have a lot to figure out in the off season. Okay, um, but we'll address that another day. We also can talk about if Bryce Harper's really going to be playing over at first base. And Rob Thompson has said to the public a couple of times that I can remember that they're going to have that conversation with him in the offseason. I think he should do it. I definitely feel like that he should because I think it would be a really good thing for him. But I don't know. I just really believe that with the way that this team has structured itself, they still have a chance to do something really special. You're right, though, that it is going to take us a little bit of time because we're humans and we have feelings for us to actually forgive them, for literally stabbing us in the back because that's ultimately what it was. It was a stab in the back, and they just went cold at the worst time. The worst time. And I think I'm done elaborating about that. But yeah, all right. So, P versus Sweetie Pie says Nola needs to go. I completely disagree with that. I think that Aaron Nola actually pitched really well in the playoffs. We can talk about financial negotiations and stuff like that later, but that's not why you lost. You didn't lose because of Aaron Nola. You lost because, again, your bats did not come through when they needed to. And everybody from 1 through 9 went cold, and just did not produce in the biggest of moments. That's why. So, that's all I got to say. All right. Jadzel says, this is the last one I want to comment on, but he says, this was our year. Next year we will not be this lucky to be beating the Braves and the Dodgers in the playoffs, the Astros, the Orioles, etc. Won't be this easy to beat next season in the playoffs. Baseball's a very weird game, my guy. I don't think that their window is necessarily closed at all whatsoever because they still have the championship level types of guys that you need on a team. You need the Kyle Schwarbers out there. You need the Bryce Harpers, okay? With the way that this team is made up, they literally pants the whole entire Atlanta Braves organization, and you saw that when they put everything on display, your eyes were telling you that this team is legit. This team is really good. Last year was not a fluke, and I kept telling everybody that. So, you have guys that are still really young, like Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm, that are going to continue to grow into their positions. And with the way that Dombrowski has this team set, they should be able to go back to a World Series next year. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. That's how I look at it. There's no excuse. Even if they lose Nola, I don't care. No excuse. They should make it to the World Series next year. That's the goal. That's the expectation. They did this to us. That's how it is. But all right. So, yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. All right. So, I want to transition a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about the gridiron side of things, all right? Because there is a lot to talk about the Eagles, and I think that the first thing that we got to discuss is Dallas. Because, man, oh, man, it was a great game. I'm not going to lie. I literally was having a good time calling it. The fan in me, though, oh, my gosh. Like, I'm watching this team, and literally they just could not get stops. And at the very end of the game, like, I expected it to be stress-free. And, of course, there's just these really bad penalties. Hassan Reddick, man, I hope that he doesn't do that again. Like, you can't be roughing the passer in that moment because guess what? They're going to call those types of things, and those little things, they add up. And the Eagles, even though they were the better team, they also were dripping blood a little bit. Not a little bit, actually a lot. But, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about how they played against Dallas. I thought that the penalties were really bad. They were also just letting them march down the field whenever they wanted to. There was not really a lot of pressure on the quarterback, Dak Prescott, at times where I thought that they should have had pressure. And then again, sometimes there's soft coverage. They play. They go back to the Jonathan Gannon zone defense where they just don't blitz, where they just forget how to do that. They also forget how to cover sidelines and those types of things. And during 2-minute drills, it just gets really, really hectic. That's what I saw. And they have the personnel to do this. It's just I can see from my own two eyes that the defensive coordinator just doesn't have these guys on the same page at all times. There have been times where I see a nice play, and I see that the defense is clicking on all cylinders and everybody's playing their role. But even though the secondary's hurt and a lot of guys are injured, Darius Slay, hopefully he's going to be okay. They lost Maddox for the whole season, and they still have guys that just aren't playing really well. Guys just got to step up, and I'm really hoping that during this bye week that Byard can start clicking with the defense, because so far he's been really much of a no-show, and I have not been able to literally like what I've seen out of him, because he was supposed to be that guy that was supposed to be the security blanket of covering in the nickel and making sure that he's able to cover receivers and that he can do things downfield, and he just hasn't been able to do that, and he hasn't been a tag along these along opponents' wide receivers and those types of things. Guys are just getting wide open looks, and they're making these open catches. They're not like contested, okay? Like there's a difference. So when CeeDee Lamb is getting 190 yards on you, yes, CeeDee Lamb's a great receiver. But again, if he's making these really big catches and Dak's throwing the ball down the field, where's the adjustments? Where are the adjustments from the defense? Because then they're just going to keep attacking. And that's just how the Dallas Cowboys operated. Now, Dak, and we'll talk about Dak in a little bit, but Dak, the stat line says that he did great. The eye test was a whole nother thing. That tackle on Goddard was absolutely dirty. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up, too. I'm nervous about Dallas, man. I'm nervous about Dallas Goddard. Now I have to be more specific, and I have to literally say Dallas Goddard instead of just Dallas, because there's two different meanings. But Philly Goddard, I am definitely nervous about him. Being out for 4 weeks at least, that's not a good thing. The Eagles need to have him back. That's a really big loss. He's a big playmaker. He can do a lot of things, blocking and making these really good catches. And now the Eagles don't have him as a weapon. That's a really big loss in so many different ways. And he needs to get healthy. And even though he's going to miss 3 games, 3 games is a lot, man. It is. So hopefully we get some more positive news as the weeks go on, and he needs to be fully 1,000% healthy. It's just that when you look at the schedule and you see Kansas City and you see San Francisco and you see Dallas again, and just, like all these tough opponents, you're going to miss Dallas Goddard. You really are. A.J. Brown has been great. I think that the receivers have been really good. Jalen has looked really, really sharp. And it's not just in the pocket. It's also just, with the way that he's throwing the ball and with the way that he's moving out of the pocket and making these reads. That Devontae Smith touchdown catch that Smith had was incredible. And that throw was right on the money. It was a perfect throw. It was a great play call. I think Brian Johnson's doing a really good job as the offensive coordinator, and you can see Jalen Hurts actually being the person that he was last year, where his passes are on the money, he has the touch, the vision's working out really good, the arm accuracy, when he steps up, I trust that he's going to take care of his body. I still think that sometimes they still design a little, they try to be a little bit too fancy, and they create these option runs or he'll scramble like around the field, and he doesn't have any sort of protection. You got to be careful with those things. I really don't want to see him do it as many times as they're still designing that to happen. But overall, I think over these last 3 weeks, he's been doing a whole lot better, and he's been put into really good positions. This team is banged up. There's no doubt about it. You need Cam Jurgens to get healthy. You need Darius Slay to be healthy. Guys are really banged up. Hassan Reddick took a little hit. Jalen took a little hit too. So this week, I think that the bye is coming at a good time, because now you have the opportunity of getting guys back and making sure that everybody can recover from everything. When you see people going into that blue tent, it is always such a scary thing, because you don't know how long that they're going to be in there and if they're going to go back to the locker room or whatever it is. So I'm really hoping that they just try to get healthy and that they can use this week to rest. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's a really big thing. Let's talk about Dak Prescott because even when there was not really a lot of pressure on him, like the receivers were making good catches and they were marching down the field. But this is what I got to say about Dak. In the guts of the game, all right, and I'm going to still go back to this. You get the touchdown that you need, okay? You're going for a 2-point conversion. It is stupid that you can't watch your footing. When you how do you not know where your footing is? And because of that, that was literally on him. That's not on anybody else. He did that. When he's going into the end zone and trying to get that 2-point conversion, you got to do it in that situation. And that was not even the Eagles' defense that stopped him. That was literally him. He ran out of bounds, and he caused Dallas to have to go for the touchdown at the very end when they easily could have tied it with a field goal. I'm really happy I'm not a Dallas fan, but I had to comment on that because you just can't be doing that in those types of situations. And the fact that people still are out there to defend this guy is just so mind-boggling to me because I've seen him come up really small in the biggest of moments. And that's just me. That's how I feel about him. And I think Jalen Hurts is way better than what Dak Prescott has been. So, that's all I got to say. We're 8-1, but it feels like we're a 6-3 team. So many nail biters. So many turnovers. I'm a Hurts guy, but he's a turnover machine this year. I don't know if I go as far to say that. The fumble that DeAndre Swift had was not his fault. A.J. Brown and him collided, but that to me is on Brian Johnson because that means that Brown and Swift were confused on the play call there. And Brown thought one thing, and Swift thought something else. But in regards to Jalen, I wouldn't call him a turnover machine. He hasn't been his sharpest overall, but I thought he played really well against Dallas, seriously. I thought that he was legit passing the ball right on the money, making the right plays. The pocket awareness was great. And like I said, like when he has to escape the pocket, I trust what he's going to do with the football. He has a really good offensive line that's been giving him pretty good protection. He hasn't really been getting sacked a lot. And the time that he just has to just throw the ball, it's just incredible. Sometimes I think we take it for granted. But he's stepping up, and he has been doing his part just from an overall perspective. I would like to see some more creativity with the offensive coordinator. I think it would be really nice to see them try to establish the run a little bit more. Now, they did do that in the second half of the game, and I liked that. Trying to give the ball to Swift a little bit more so that you don't always have to rely on Jalen to just pass the ball and utilize that air game. I think that one of the reasons why Goddard, was one of the people that got injured is because they utilized the air game a little bit too much. As weird as that sounds, sometimes, if teams are gonna adjust to you, you have to make the adjustments. And they did do that, but I just thought from an overall perspective that they utilized the air game a little bit too much. And, that can risk a lot of injuries there. So, can we finally beat Andy Reid, please? Yeah, man. I'm with you. Peevish Sweetie Pie, I disagree. Hurts isn't having the year that he had last year. He's turning the ball over way too much, and sometimes he looks uncomfortable running the ball, maybe because he's fighting injury. Maybe. I don't think he's been as sharp as he was last season, but I still think that he's a very solid quarterback, and not everything has been all his fault. Sometimes what happens is that when you do have a guy like Juergens that goes down, or if or if you have a new offensive coordinator that's out there, all right, like there's a lot of adjustments that you have to make. And I'm not giving Jalen any sort of excuses, but however, you do have to realize too that like to duplicate what he did last season, I think it would be really, really tough. But I still think that even the short passes that he makes, I don't think he's been afraid at all whatsoever. I think that he's lived up in the moment now. We have to see what he's able to do in a 5-minute drill of a very close, or a 2-minute drill of a very close game. I think that that would be really cool. We haven't really seen a whole lot of that this year. I want to see what he's able to do in like a 2-minute drill, especially with these games that are upcoming. If it's a really close game with the Chiefs or with the 49ers, all eyes are going to be on Jalen because, he's going to have to step up in those moments. There's no doubt about it. If he has to put them in field goal range in 55 seconds and he's not able to do that job, we're certainly allowed to criticize him, and we're allowed to have an opinion on that. All right, so, but yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Yeah, Goddard out is a really big problem. Yep. All right, so now I want to transition. If you guys want to ever come on and talk birds with me, please feel free to let me know. Eventually, what I'll probably do next time is I'll have a graphic up so that way you guys know like what topic we're talking about. How much time do we have left? 11 minutes. All right, so going from really sad to feeling good, but like wanting to see more, and still feeling a little bit stressed out about this team and having like a lot of thoughts about the birds. Now we're going to go into something that's absolutely 1,000% all sunshine, seriously. And that is the Philadelphia 76ers. All right. I love this team. I would have never imagined that I would ever get bought back in to being a fan of this team. I thought it was going to take me a couple of years. I'm really not going to lie. And the fact that they are just playing the way that they are right now, they are the best thing for the city. Okay, after a bad Phillies collapse, all right, after, like some very stressful weeks that the Eagles give you, even though they're winning games, it still is pretty stressful. Let's not lie about it. And just overall mediocre hockey, it is just so refreshing to watch a team that loves to play with one another and just goes out there and fights every minute, okay? I have loved what Tyrese Maxey has become. I personally had questions about if Tyrese Maxey could actually be the point guard of this team. I personally thought, and this was just me, I thought that he would do really good as a shooting guard, and maybe if you needed him to handle the ball a little bit, that he could do that. But I was wrong. And Nick Nurse just has this team playing with poise, with aggression, and this is like nothing I've ever seen before in my entire life. I'm not going to lie, though. I love what this team has been doing, and we'll get into the positives. But tomorrow is a very big test for the Sixers. No doubt about it. You're going up against the Celtics. The Celtics have been winning games, even though I personally don't think that the Celtics are all that, because when I watch them, sometimes I watch Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and it's like, who's going to take the last shot? Is it your turn or my turn type of a thing? With the way that the Sixers are playing, this two-man game between Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid is literally almost unstoppable, okay? They literally spammed the pick and roll in the last game in that second half. Maxey's running down the court, Embiid's rolling over to the basket, and the Wizards had no answer. They could not stop that. They really couldn't. And they just kept spamming that over again, where Maxey has the ball, have a bounce pass inside to Joel Embiid. Embiid draws up the double team, a fadeaway little shimmy shot, and it's just automatic. It's just going in. That's just how it's been. And the shooters are just playing really well. I love what the Sixers got for James Harden. And the fact that you had a diva on your team that was literally a quote unquote, I don't like to use the word cancer, but he was really a drama king in that locker room. As soon as Tyrese Maxey started to have the season that he was having, and I know it was just 3 or 4 games that they had under their belt, that 3 to 4 games was enough of a sample size for Daryl Morey to finally speed up the trade process because he was going to hold on to Tyrese. He was going to hold on to James Harden. He did that for Ben Simmons. He waited out till the trade deadline, even when Ben said he wanted out in, November? Same thing. But because Tyrese Maxey's ceiling just continues to grow every single day, that's why he sped up that trade. So I'm just really proud of this team. You are lying to yourself right now if you are watching this team and you're not having fun. Because guess what? With the way that they showed off that firepower yesterday, oh my God. That was awesome. That was incredible. But at the same time, okay, tomorrow is a big game. They need to make a statement against Boston, and we need to see how this pick and roll looks against Boston because they are a legit team, and they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. There's no doubt about it. But, man, Tobias is playing really well. Kelly Oubre Jr., I'm waiting for him to have a bad game. Actually, wait, I lied. He had a bad game, but more people stepped up. Nick Batum comes over in the James Harden trade, makes his first 4 shots, comes off the bench. Robert Covington's playing scrappy defense. Marcus Morris comes in. He shines. This team is so deep. I don't think I've ever seen a Sixers team this deep ever in my entire life. Because now they have wings. Now they have guys that can just handle the basketball and that just do a really good job at what their roles are. And Maxey and Embiid are having the time of their lives playing against each other. And I can't lie, it is just really an incredible sight to see. It really is. I'm having a blast watching them, and I can't wait to see what they do tomorrow. I cannot wait. 7 o'clock tip-off, that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so before I get on out of here, because I do have to get out in about 4 minutes, I would be very naive if I did not talk about the Flyers because, I want to talk about them because the orange and the black, they are playing, okay? And it has been a very wonky type of a season so far. The expectations coming into the season, we knew that they were going to be in a rebuild mode. That's what has been elaborated to us so many times from Keith Jones to everybody else that's a part of the front office right now. Because there's no doubt about it. They are in a rebuild type of a mode, and they have to see what they have and who they can get and build from the draft. Build from the ground up. Now, Carter Hart's injury, I would literally, I have to tell you, it really doesn't make me feel good whatsoever. I'm a big fan of Carter Hart. I think that putting the pressure on him to be the number one guy, to be the face of the team, I think that's a little bit, I think that's a little bit too much. I think that you need to try to find ways to get younger wings and younger, centers and just more top-tier talent and build around that, but then have Carter Hart be that guy that can also, make a big impact and, be able to make plays on the netminder side. But to just put all the weight on his shoulders, that's just not how the sport is right now. You need to build around forwards and centers. Coots has looked pretty good, I think, overall. I think that Couturier has been playing pretty well, and I'm happy that overall he's a lot healthier. But This team has a lot of young guys that they're trying to figure out what their skill sets are and where they can mesh in certain spots. And Tortorella, to me, is in a really tough spot because that's what he has to figure out. And he knew that coming into the season, that he knew that he had to figure out where Morgan Frost could play, even though now Morgan Frost is literally in his doghouse. But, where other guys can thrive and in what types of roles. Cates, Farabee. I've been a really big fan of Joel Farabee. I think that he has a lot of really nice attributes to him. Cam York at times has looked really good, but they have a lot of holes, and they're in a rebuild type of a mode. And when you're in that type of a mode, it is really hard to fully assess how you feel about the team overall because you're looking at it from just this seasonal standpoint as just what type of talent do we have, okay? And that's how it is. They've looked really sharp sometimes, and other games they have not looked sharp at all. The power play, I forget who it was. I was watching it. But, they really just had a really hard time on the power play producing. I forget who their opponent was at the time. But then other times, the power play has looked really, really good. And then they've been doing a good job at times on the penalty kill. And some games, it just hasn't worked out that way. There was a game where they had 42 shots on goal. And they, had a really hard time of making a lot of goals in that game. And I was thinking to myself, how the heck does that happen? It's just the way that the sport goes, You have to be able to rotate guys. You need to figure out who your talent is. I think that they have some pretty interesting guys on the line, on the blue line, that I'd be more interested to see how they do and how their futures pan out here. Or are they going to be a part of a trade package? I don't know. But you need to see these guys play, and you're in a season now where it's okay to not know what to expect. It's okay to, have a quote-unquote, I don't want to call it a gap year, but to figure out who you have. It could be something nice. Could be something that turns out to be really awful. But I do trust the organization, and I think that they have a shot of righting the ship. And we'll see some good hockey. Speaking of hockey, I'm going to get off because I want to listen to Tim Saunders, all right? We're going to start calling hockey games next week. I literally said to everybody, give me a few more times to just listen to Tim, so that way I can have more of an understanding of just rhythm, and then I'll practice doing it on NHL Live and all that sort of stuff. I was actually going to start doing that tomorrow, just playing NHL, and then literally just start doing it myself, But thank you all so much for tuning in, all right, to the State of Philly Sports Podcast with me, JJ. I love each and every one of you. We're going to talk about each of these teams, man. These conversations are not going away. But I'll catch you all in the next one, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great rest of your night. Lala Tov.